So the bar exam is 3 months away.
Do you feel nervous about the bar?
Yeah, I'm not ready yet.
I am feeling a little bit overwhelmed.
Why?
Someone from prison was like, this person put a hit out on your life.
And while the legal fight gets heavier, the cultural shockwave is already massive. If fans who grew up seeing Snoop as the blueprint for transformation, quickly going from street life to mainstream success, are struggling to make sense of this twist. The same man who talked about family unity on daytime TV now faces claims that the entire household image may have been a carefully built illusion. Some supporters see him as someone who was manipulated behind the scenes, while others question whether he also played a part by keeping the image alive for so long. It's the kind of contradiction that changes how a legacy is viewed forever, because if the foundation of Snoop Dogg's public story was built on an untruth, then every award, every fatherhood moment, every motivational speech suddenly hits with a different tone. And we can't ignore how this enormous scandal arrives at the same time the entertainment industry is already going through major chaos, making the situation feel even bigger than one man's crisis, with other moguls like Diddy facing criminal charge and old scandals exploding back into public view. The entire generation of power players is suddenly under a level of pressure nobody saw coming, and the man everyone thought was the exception said,
"It looks like Kim Kardashian is using her reality show to make, I mean, I hate to say it because I love Kim and I hope she passes the bar, but I think she's using the show to make excuses ahead of time in case she flunks."
Snoop, the one who survived decades of chaos through humor, charm, and wisdom, might now get pulled into that same wave of scrutiny. The hip-hop world, already shaken by betrayals and lawsuits, is watching this situation like it's the turning point of an era. If things keep unfolding the way insiders expect, this could mark the collapse of a whole chapter in music history, where image mattered more than truth. Every sign points toward a major confrontation that could rewrite everything fans thought they knew. Shantae, who still hasn't made an official statement, is reportedly building her own legal squad, ready to fight for her version of the story. People close to her say she'll claim she built the broadest empire side by side with Snoop and deserves equal respect and equal compensation. If that argument hits the courtroom, we could end up witnessing one of the biggest, most public, and most heated divorces modern entertainment has ever seen. This wouldn't be private heartbreak. This would turn into a full courtroom saga with witnesses from decades back. Imagine former label bosses, old business partners, family members, and maybe even Suge Knight himself being subpoenaed to speak.
Same kind of extortion that we heard when Cassie took the stand and testified on that airplane ride back from France. Diddy said, "You don't do a freak off, I'm going to release one of the freak off videos that you are profiled in and humiliate you."
It would turn Snoop's personal pain into a televised reckoning that the whole world will dissect. Right now, all anyone can do is watch as Snoop Dogg's life balances between empire and exposure. The same man who built a career telling the world to keep it real is now being forced to show exactly how real or how staged his world truly was. And one thing is guaranteed: this fight will not happen quietly. Every move he makes, every court filing, every post, every appearance will get picked apart by millions, because this isn't just a breakup, this is a power shift. When the king of the West Coast starts losing control inside his own home, the entire kingdom feels the shockwave. So the question now becomes, if the truth finally comes out, does Snoop rise again as the survivor everyone believed in? Or does he become another cautionary tale inside an industry famous for illusions and hidden agendas? Let me know what you think in the comments. And don't forget to like, subscribe, share, and hit that notification bell, because this story is nowhere near finished. See you on the next one.
So he put his hands on females, put his hands on producers, executives. That's just his, I guess that's what the whole name Bad Boy comes from. That people don't really understand. What is it? What is a bad boy? Why did he choose that name? Like he never really gave a clear definition of how he feels about that name. Not yet.
For Kim, who built her entire empire on control, timing, and a polished image, the choice to back away from Diddy didn't come with a public announcement. It came with quiet, calculated moves that spoke louder than any statement. She deleted old photos with him, stopped interacting with his posts, and started telling close friends she didn't want her name tied to anything connected to his situation. Then came the investigator's call, the one that allegedly confirmed her deepest fear, the one that suggested the threat to her life might be connected to someone she once let into her inner circle. And just when the situation couldn't feel more tangled, a brand new contradiction hit the internet. Ray J, her ex and one of her loudest critics, popped up on a live stream claiming that the Kardashians were even worse than Diddy and that they were supposedly under federal investigation too. He didn't hold back and the comments spread fast. Days later, he got hit with a defamation lawsuit from Kim and Kris Jenner, but by then, his words had already reached millions. His claims cut deeper than usual, not because they were proven, but because of where they came from. Ray J has been in that family's orbit. He knows the behind-the-scenes mechanics, and hearing him mention Diddy in the same breath as the Kardashians poured gasoline on an already blazing rumor mill. The lawsuit, filed in September, accuses him of making up a whole federal RICO case against them.
When it came to the other defense attorneys speaking, Brian Steele was just very urging of the judge to please consider that Sean Combs had untreated trauma throughout his life. Brian Steele urged the judge to consider that Sean Combs had untreated trauma in his life, and that there have been times in Sean Combs' life, especially when he had in his system, that there were times where he had flatlined, and
calling his claims pure fiction. But in the world of celebrity gossip, where people love connecting half-truths and loose threads, the story didn't land like a fantasy. It landed like revenge from someone who knew exactly where to poke. Meanwhile, Kim's health suddenly became part of the unfolding narrative. In that same season trailer, she revealed she had been diagnosed with a small brain aneurysm, something doctors linked directly to extreme stress. She blamed it on the pressure of her divorce and the non-stop emotional battles with Ye, saying the strain had been building up for years. But followers online didn't stop there. They started connecting every single dot they could find. Was this stress really only from her divorce? Or was it the weight of something way more serious, something tied to those years she spent at Diddy's mansion events, surrounded by people and situations she never fully talked about? None of it can be confirmed, but the timing is impossible to ignore.
There is a partial verdict in the Diddy case. After 2 days, the jury has reached unanimous decisions on 4 of the 5 counts.
The problem is that 5th count means that we don't get to find out what the verdicts are on the other 4 because they are hung up on
a federal case closing in on Diddy, renewed attention on Kim's safety, and a medical scare that forced her to step back, all happening just as investigators were reportedly reaching out. Each piece makes the whole situation feel heavier, like the truth is sitting right behind the curtain waiting to be revealed. We've learned from several industry sources that Kim's massive security upgrade didn't actually start after the Paris situation. It quietly began in early 2025, right after a private investigator called her team with information that shook her to the core. That call, which the trailer later dramatized, allegedly laid out a plan to harm her in detail, and those same words were echoed in the network's own promo materials, like they wanted viewers to understand the weight of it. Since that moment, Kim's everyday routine has been locked down with military-level control. Delivery workers get screened.
So maybe the judge is going to give him more than time served.
But we should say that the maximum he could get is 20 years.
And that's what I want to get into for a minute, because this is some racist you-know-what, this Mann Act.
Vehicles get mirrored for hidden objects, and every new employee must sign strict multi-layer NDA agreements before even stepping foot near her circle. The family hasn't spoken publicly about any of this, but people who have visited her Hidden Hills home describe the atmosphere as something closer to a protection program than a celebrity mansion. Armed guards, controlled entry, and cameras in every angle. It's far beyond regular fame-level safety, and it raises the one question nobody can shake. What exactly does Kim know that has her this scared? She's dealt with stalkers, a traumatic robbery, and the most analyzed divorce on the planet, yet none of those situations required posting guards at her children's classrooms. Something changed, and whatever it was, it pushed her into a level of fear she's never shown before. And we can't overlook her past connection to Diddy. She and her sisters once openly celebrated their friendship with him, showing up to his events and praising him on camera. Now that same man is being accused of running an underground network that stretched across cities. Sources close to the raids say investigators took encrypted drives that allegedly
he was responsible for Diddy's day-to-day life, so he is able to provide a lot of information about what that life was like. He goes into detail on extensive
contained footage from his private events, and some of those events reportedly involved well-known names. If Kim ever stepped into even one of those nights, and if she saw anything that lines up with the federal claims, she might carry testimony strong enough to bring entire careers crashing down. That alone could give someone a motive to keep her quiet. Ye's place in this whole story has been easy for people to mock, writing him off as someone who spiraled publicly. But when you go back and look at the timeline, his warnings form a pattern that's hard to ignore. Back in February 2022, he posted in all caps that Kim had accused him of putting a hit out on her. At the time, everyone brushed it off like messy drama, but looking at it now, it almost feels like foreshadowing. All these years later, she's the one saying a close associate tried to harm her, and Ye is the one pointing straight at Diddy, saying he's the real threat. Yes, Ye has lost friends and burned bridges, but maybe that isolation pushed him into saying things others are scared to touch. Behind all the noise, one truth stands out. The connection between Kim, Ye, and Diddy isn't entertainment gossip anymore.
So, Terrence Howard appeared on the PBD podcast with Patrick Bet-David, and the episode, this premiered on April 4th. Definitely making the rounds because in this episode, Terrence Howard describes an interaction with Diddy where he says that he believes that Diddy was trying to have with him. Let's take a listen.
It's a collision of influence, secrets, and fear. Kim's refusal to address any of it has become its own message. She's not arguing, she's not denying, she's not feeding the public anything. She's simply fortifying her world and letting the silence speak. Her legal battle with Ray J, her medical scare, the tightened security around her kids, all of it paints a picture of a woman shielding something far bigger than her public image. And with Ye continuing to insist that Diddy wants her gone, the question lingers heavier every day. What did she witness inside those mansions? What conversations did she share with Ye when they were married? And how far would someone go to make sure none of that ever sees daylight? Because whatever danger surrounds Kim today, it didn't start in Paris, and it definitely didn't end there. Her life is in danger because of what she might have witnessed at Diddy's events, and because of who could be paying to keep those memories locked away. Kim Kardashian's 2016 Paris robbery wasn't just a headline-grabbing crime. It felt like a warning shot. Everyone remembers the reports, heard over $10 million in jewels snatched. A massive diamond ring pulled straight off her hand, zip ties around her wrists, masked intruders tearing through her hotel room while she begged for her life. Through tears, she said, "I have babies, I have to make it home." And one of the masked men whispered, "Shh, and you will be okay." That moment stopped the world. For years, the public thought the story ended there, an isolated robbery, a traumatic night, a case eventually closed. But now people are asking a different question. What if those masked intruders were only the beginning? What if that night wasn't about jewelry or fame? It was about leverage. Because during that same timeline, Kim was moving in circles tied to Diddy's empire. And his empire, according to federal filings, was held together by secrets that were never supposed to see daylight. Those infamous freak-off events weren't rumors or gossip.
He is a serial woman abuser, the likes of which we haven't seen in modern America, at least not on the public stage in this way. He is a repeated serial abuser. He beat those women to a pulp and didn't even deny it. He didn't deny it. They admitted expressly domestic abuse over and over and over again, something the judge used against them when they pled for bail.
Federal prosecutors described them in detailed filings backed up by recordings, witness statements, and digital evidence. What people once dismissed as wild party stories suddenly became part of an organized pattern. Coercion mixed with luxury, celebrity power mixed with intimidation. Years ago, Khloe even joked publicly about a 2014 gathering where people were behaving in shocking ways, treating it like a casual Hollywood memory. Back then, it sounded like bragging. Now it sounds like a clue. These nights weren't harmless or forgotten moments. They were documented, they were recorded. Insiders say those tapes still exist, locked inside the seized hard drives federal agents took from Diddy's homes. And if Kim ever stepped foot into even one of those events, then she might have seen things nobody wanted exposed. That alone could explain why someone might want her silenced or intimidated. When federal agents raided Diddy's properties in March 2025, they didn't just grab paperwork, they seized laptops, full security systems, encrypted hard drives, and external devices. People close to the investigation claim some of the footage shows recognizable faces from TV, business, and even politics, individuals who never wanted their names anywhere near this case. And if Kim knows even a fraction of what was happening in those circles, if she ever witnessed anything that lines up with federal claims, then her testimony wouldn't just make headlines, it could destroy reputations and crumble alliances built over decades. That's more than scandal, that's motive. Behind the glitz, behind the cameras, behind the polished image, Kim might be carrying knowledge that someone powerful doesn't want so resurfacing. And the closer investigators get to uncovering these hidden files, the louder the questions become about why Kim has been fortifying her life for years and who exactly she's trying to stay safe from. That one line buried inside an indictment summary shook the entire entertainment world like an earthquake. It forced everyone to rethink old photos, celebrity friendships, red carpets, and glamorous appearances that once looked harmless. Even though Kim's name was never printed in any court filing, the public suddenly saw a new shadow following her, a silent warning sitting behind every past interaction. Her choice to unfollow Diddy right before the raids now looks less like timing and more like survival, an instinctive move from someone who knew a storm was coming. And then came the sentencing, 50 months behind bars, not for the full list of accusations, but for transportation violations under the Mann Act. The jury dismissed certain counts, but the judge still referenced elements of the serious allegations while delivering punishment. Even Diddy's own lawyer claimed the sentence felt un-American, and it raises a chilling question. If the legal system couldn't completely shut him down, then who else might step in to keep the deeper parts of his network from being exposed? Who would feel threatened enough to contain the fallout before those hidden layers unravel? The idea that Kim's testimony, just one woman speaking on record, could shift the balance suddenly doesn't sound impossible at all. Meanwhile, Ye's world has been falling apart in full view of the public. He owes Kim $200,000 every month in child support, and while that sounds like a typical celebrity arrangement, it also symbolizes leverage, money moving from one empire to another, power shifting behind the scenes. Add his controversial, adult-focused Yeezy business moves, his ex-assistant's harassment suit, and a non-stop swirl of legal battles, and the picture becomes messier than fans ever realized. On the surface, these stories seem unrelated, just scattered drama from tabloids. But when you zoom out, you can see the repeating pattern. Powerful men losing control, tripping over secrets they tried to bury. And right in the middle of all that chaos stands Kim, a woman who knows more than either of them probably want out in the open. People connected to Diddy's legal team have whispered that one of his biggest fears during discovery was a witness tied to a major television family. No name was listed, but it doesn't take much guessing to figure out who fits that description. Kim's attorney has refused to answer any questions about whether she has been subpoenaed or contacted by investigators. That silence speaks volumes because silence has basically become Kim's armor now. Every new guard, every lockdown location, every strict NDA, it all forms a shield, protecting her from something far bigger than the public realizes. Even her health scare lines up too conveniently with everything happening around her. In 2024, she revealed that she had been diagnosed with a brain aneurysm. On the show, she said it came from stress, and doctors pointed to emotional strain, but online, fans weren't convinced. They noticed that the announcement came only weeks after Diddy's indictment, right as prosecutors hinted that more names could be pulled into the case. People started asking whether stress alone could cause something that serious, or whether the real pressure came from what she couldn't speak about publicly. And when we look closer, the pieces start fitting together. The tighter security, the secrecy surrounding her children's school routines, her sudden withdrawal from charity events that she once promoted proudly. It all paints a picture of someone living in permanent defense mode. It's the behavior of someone preparing for a threat that hasn't fully surfaced yet, but one she believes is real enough to reshape her entire life. We also can't ignore that Diddy's events weren't just wild nights, they were full-blown ecosystems where power moved in every direction, like currency. Money flowed through fashion brands, film projects, record labels, liquor deals, and luxury sponsorships, all tied together in the same circle. Everyone who showed up wasn't just dancing and taking pictures, they were getting access, favors, and introductions that could flip their whole career overnight. Someone like Kim, shifting from reality TV star to billionaire businesswoman, would sit right in the center of that web, not on the edge of it. She didn't just go there to have fun, she networked, she locked in relationships, she built serious alliances, and that makes whatever she knows a lot more dangerous than a regular guest's memories. Racketeering means organized coordination, and organized coordination leaves receipts, texts, calls, payments, travel, security logs. Anybody who can connect those dots becomes a liability real fast. Even the Paris robbery starts to look different when you run it through that lens. Picture living in a world where almost everything is captured, phones out, security cameras rolling, hidden devices catching people at their weakest moments, and then suddenly, you get robbed in another country by men dressed like police officers in a supposedly secure hotel. That's not just random bad luck. That's the kind of situation that makes you wonder who's really watching who. Too many details line up a little too neatly for it to feel like coincidence anymore. Those men were nicknamed the Grandpa Gang, and still they pulled off a clean high-level operation inside a protected building without physically harming her, then disappeared. She was terrified, but she walked out alive, and that alone raises questions. What if that night wasn't designed to end her life, but to remind her how easy it is for someone to reach her wherever she is, to show her that access can flip into exposure at any time if the right people decide it's time to apply pressure? When you think about it like that, Wes' rants start hitting a little different. He's the only one who has publicly accused Diddy of being involved in moves against Kim, the only one who keeps coming back to the same people and the same accusations over and over again. Maybe he's not being ignored because he's completely off. Maybe he's being pushed aside because he's inconvenient. We've watched him lose brands, partnerships, and friends, one door after another closing in his face. He doesn't really have anything left to protect image-wise, and that makes him risky to anyone who still has a lot to lose if the full story ever comes out. Then there's another quiet clue. Kim's ongoing push for justice reform. On the surface, it looks like a passion project, a cause she cares about from the heart, and that may be true, but insiders whisper that her work on prison and legal cases gives her a front row seat to how federal investigations actually function, how deals are made, how people cooperate, and how witnesses protect themselves. One former associate even described her as the type who stays 10 steps ahead, which makes her whole strategy look very intentional. If that's accurate, maybe she's not just trying to survive, maybe she's actively preparing for whatever might come next. And even with all that preparation, the stakes have never been higher. Diddy might be locked up, but his network didn't just evaporate overnight. There are still managers, investors, and quiet supporters out there, people with influence who either owe him loyalty or want the damage around his name to stay contained. Kim stepping back from his world doesn't erase the years she spent close to it. If she ever chooses to speak openly, the ripple effect could rock reputations in entertainment, business, and even politics, all off the strength of what she witnessed and who she can connect to what. That kind of power comes with a serious price tag. So here we are. Kim has unfollowed Diddy, tightened her circle, upgraded her protection, and chosen silence instead of direct confrontation. And in a world disconnected, silence isn't empty, it's strategy. But in a culture where convictions fade fast, where cameras turn into leverage, and where the truth itself gets traded like a bargaining chip, we have to stop and ask, how long can silence really keep her protected? How long before the walls she built to shield herself start closing in from every angle? Because if even half of what Ye claims has any truth to it, then Kim Kardashian isn't just haunted by what happened in Paris. She's standing in the crossfire between two powerful men who know exactly what she witnessed and exactly how valuable that knowledge is. So what do we honestly believe here? Has Kim been securing her own safety all these years, or has she been protecting the very industry that helped build her into a global icon? Are we watching a quiet cover-up play out in real time, or witnessing the silent survival strategy of the most famous woman on the planet? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. I want to hear what you think. And don't forget to like, subscribe, share, and hit that notification bell so you never miss another breakdown like this. Some stories don't end when the headlines fade. They just wait for the next knock at the door. Stay curious, stay alert, and I'll see you on the next one.